All right, welcome to another Thursday night. Tonight, little medley, I guess we can call it. A couple interesting things that happened that I wanted to talk about because we are not physical beings. And I hope you've had experiences already knowing that. Not believing, knowing. So I'm practicing with my daughter. She's pitching. We have a big net behind us, but the net has a hole in the bottom. And she threw a fastball right at that hole. I couldn't catch it. Went right to the hole. Behind us is 5 acres of land, or behind me, I should say, in front of our house, but across the street. And that ball went flying into the brush. I was like, uh-oh. So, and everything in there is like 4 or 5 feet tall. Hasn't been cut in many months. So we both go in there. We're looking. We're zigzagging, walking. We walked, probably 200 feet, thinking that ball could just keep going because it's downhill. And we're looking for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You know, we hate losing our balls. Couldn't find it. Go back to practice, and that was that with that. Then I was determined today. Now there's all kind of sticker bushes, thorns, everything in there. We were both all scratched up. We had shorts, so I put on some serious gear to go into the woods, and boots, jeans, everything. So I go in like I'm search and rescue, and I go zigzag like 15 feet this way, 15 feet this way, and I'm just sweeping back and forth, going again probably 200 feet deep. There's no way it could have gone this far. And here's where it gets interesting. So first of all, I felt like I had forgotten respect for nature, because thorns can kind of piss you off. So I'm just pushing on them with my feet, and I don't remember breaking any, but I'm sure I wasn't very nice, kind of pushing like most people do. And a long time ago, I learned not to do that in the woods. And so I just sort of changed my attitude, and I started apologizing. And I started just asking, can you guys help me? I said, I really want to find this ball. I said, can you help me? Yeah, nothing happens. I keep weaving back and forth, walking. And I had to leave soon. It was this morning. I had to get to my clinic. So on my way out, I get all the way to the front again, and I get a message in my mind. You need to get down low with us, like the animals. So, okay, I squat down. I'm at the very edge where it starts, right off the road, and there's the ball right in front of me, about 1 foot in. So that was one of many experiences in my life. Um, but it was clear. It was a clear voice. I was done. I was gonna give up. And then it's like, you have to get down low with us like the animals. Because something I learned a long time ago with survival is also like, there were drills we did or exercises we did where we would crawl. And I had this whole big block of woods back in where you guys are, New Jersey, in the middle of Teaneck. And I did a lot of, maybe you call research or my dirt time, which involves tracking and just exploring nature. And I learned that way back then. Get down low, and it's like a whole new world. And what do I mean by a whole new world? Well, the world of the animals. In other words, you're in the brush, it looks thick, you're pushing your way through it, but you get down low, you see trails. You see where the animals have walked, and you see things that are more worn, like a little wider, more open than others. And all of a sudden, the whole world opens up to you, and you see all kinds of things you would have never seen otherwise. And one time I crawled right over a fully intact deer skeleton. That was pretty wild. fully intact. I just crawled and I saw the tail, and then I saw, you know, like the end of the spine, and then the legs, and the whole darn thing. So one of those rare things. And there's other times I just find skulls and just things you wouldn't think about. And it was like I was a child, and I wasn't a child, full grown man. And then I don't know who I don't think any of you were there. We had a retreat a number of years ago at Blue Deer, and we had at the end of our retreats we would always have some sort of presentation that was unique to the place. And a few years, or this one year, we had someone come in and showed us how plants can play music. So they literally have a device now that they can put probes in the soil or attach it to the roots or something. And then it goes through this device and the plant will play music. We all experienced this. We had 15 to 20 in attendance. We were all amazed. I understand at the time Microsoft wasn't interested, and I think if you do a search for plants play music or something, you'll find things, because that was a number of years ago now, and I'm sure the technology has developed more. And what's more amazing, it's like the woman told us stories, kind of like if she upset the plant, it wouldn't play. It didn't matter, the machine's on, the probes were attached, it wouldn't play. And there were times that it would play happier, and there were times when it would play sadder. I think it was the same presentation where we were each directed to go out to a special area and have a conversation with the plant. Just choose a random plant, whatever you're drawn to. And I remember having like a complete download of information coming from this plant that I did it with. It was just like it wouldn't shut up. It was like it had such an opportunity to talk, and it wouldn't. You know how people could be like that? They never get to talk, and all of a sudden you give them an opportunity and they won't shut up. It was kind of like that with this plant. It was telling me all these things. And then you question, you know, was that real or was that coming from me? But there was no way, because it was like things I wouldn't think to say. It's a very unique experience. And if you've ever had the opportunity to read the book, oh, what was the name of that now? Secret Life of Plants, I think it is. Where in one experiment they had a line of people come through, and one person grabbed, there were two plants, and one of them grabbed it and just destroyed the one plant, slammed it on the ground. And the probes would like read, like almost like a Geiger, you know, like the vibration of that plant. And when they came around again, the plant was fine, but when that guy came into the room, the plant went, the gauge was going up and down crazy, like he was screaming. So all these experiences with plants communicating. So needless to say, I have a hard time when there's someone who doesn't want to eat meat because of moral reasons, or they talk about sentient beings or something to that effect. And to each his own, except that because they don't relate to spirit enough to realize that even scientifically today it can be proven that plants are conscious. Plants feel pain. The problem with food and the problem with this physical realm is, as I learned from Tom Brown Jr., in order for you to live another day, something has to die today. So to the spiritual level, it's pretty much all the same. And it reminds me of a saying with, to the rocks, the trees are just passing through. In other words, it's all different levels of consciousness. And if you only relate to something that has a face, it shows your level of consciousness. where those in the past who were more observant and connected to nature actually experienced consciousness even from the earth, even from the stones, things that we are figuring are inanimate objects. So that was one amazing thing. The plants helped me find the ball. So another thing that happened today, it was an interesting day. The patient starts sharing, so I've been treating this patient for a couple of weeks, and he had a rough childhood. I knew that from the original intake. And so the last couple nights, he says he like wakes up in a sweat with dreams that he hasn't had since he was a child. And when he was a child, he would like imagine how to escape from the situation he was in. Not a good situation. And so these dreams, these childhood dreams, like nightmares, I guess, returned. Now I wonder, of those of you listening to this, what do you think that is? Just answer to yourself. But I've been doing meditation for close to 40 years, teaching thousands of people, really. And I've seen a lot of things. Now, why would this come back when I start treating him? And it's because when I put the needles in the person to treat them, and they're lying there, can't really move because the needles are in, but I also play music that is meditative. So they're kind of forced into meditation as well. So the needles have their prescription. They move the chi and blood. They open vessels. They relax the body, calm the nervous system, release endorphins, all these sort of things. And they're experiencing a release. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's go back to that terrible childhood. When we're experiencing trauma, when we're experiencing hard times, difficult things, you probably remember kind of put them aside or bury them inside. You can become somewhat numb, less emotional, because emotions didn't do you any good, so you learn how to stop that. Or maybe you had a father. I mean, my father said this to me once when his father died, and he was crying, and then I started crying. I don't think I knew why I was crying, except because my father was crying, and I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old. And he just stopped and he kind of scolded me. You don't cry. You don't cry. You have to wonder how and why that happened. Like, did his father tell him that? Is this what men have passed down generation to generation? And I think many times, many situations, yes, because this patient said his father said the same thing. In fact, he brought it up, and then I said, yeah, my dad said the same. His father told him, you don't cry. It's like being a man, right? What is being a man? Having a stick up your butt? Being tough and mean no matter what, there's no emotion. But I think the worse things are around you, the more that toughness is taught. It's absorbed. It becomes, you're tougher because it doesn't do any good not to be tough. It's a survival thing. So we trap a lot of emotions is what I'm getting at. We trap a lot of emotions. And there was a real good book about this years ago, Molecules of Emotions, if you're interested. And it talks about emotions actually being physical things. physical things that are both stored in your body and can come out physically with tears, for example. And so the worst advice a father can give their son for health purposes is you don't cry, because now you're trapping any trauma inside. You see that? And it can make you sick going into the future in your life. Yeah, that is something I will say is very helpful. So worst times of my life, bad things happening. I would allow myself to just completely release with tears, because I knew that. I had already learned that. And so where other people were dumping antidepressants in my wife's pocket, turning to pills as if that's the answer, I would tell her to cry. Let yourself feel everything. And that's how you get through real trauma. You have to feel it. Hiding it traps it. It will cause problems. It's subconscious. You don't even know it's there. And it will follow you through the rest of your life. It will make you sick, and you don't even know why. It basically creates more of those kinks in the hose of chi and blood flow, for one. So he's having these dreams. He's asking me about this. And so I knew, only because of the many years of meditation. Because his body was starting to become more open, chi and blood flowing, these deep-seated emotions were coming up. And he was reliving this stuff from his childhood that got buried in the basement many, many years before. And that's a good thing. Because when this stuff, it's like the trap door opens and all the evil comes out, all the bad stuff comes up. It's coming up and going away. Problem is, when people don't understand that sort of thing, this is why meditation can be very troublesome for many people. Because it's one thing to just be focusing on something, contemplation, right? Just superficial meditation, relaxation. But if you actually drop where things really open, you might find those trap doors in yourself. And what happens is you can actually relive trauma as if you're there again. It comes up with the same feelings as if you're living it again. You relive it. And through that process, you will get healthier. You will get better. You will clear that garbage from inside you that's been like a baggage you're carrying. The problem is there's a threshold that if you start to feel it coming on, and especially normally in person, we're doing these Thursday night meditations and we have a nice group there, you're among other people. You don't want to lose it with other people around, right? But by yourself, it can be very, very scary too. So if you actually start getting more skilled at meditation, you start to go deeper, you risk reaching that basement and opening those trap doors. And you might feel this a little bit, and then you say, oh, what's that? And you get scared and you stop. And then there's been some people I've seen where it's like, oh, no, I can't meditate. I don't like meditation. They don't want to let go. They're just not, they're not ready, or they're afraid, or whatever. Yeah, straight up, they got scared. That experience scared them. But unless you go through it, you never release it, which keeps it stuck inside. And so I've been able to guide a few people through it because then I could explain what it was. But when you don't know what it is, it's scary. You feel like you're going to lose yourself. And one of the arguments could be the fight. It's like the fight of who you think you are, not wanting to let go. It's that ego. And so there's the saying where the true path, the true goal of the martial artist is to discover the ego and then destroy the ego. Destroying the ego, this is the road to destroy the ego, is getting into the basement and opening that up so that there is this purification that happens and you actually reconnect. I shouldn't say reconnect. You realize your connection to all that is, to God, to the divine, um, in a very real way. It's an experience, it's not a belief. People can talk all they want, not the same as the experience. The experience is something that you never can forget. You can never deny. You could try, but you know this. You know the truth. It's an actual. Your physical body. There's no better word than connects. It just links up with everything. But that can't happen without the purification. You have to get that garbage out. And I feel like I've talked about this not too long ago, where I met some people in Scientology. And one of the things that people pay a lot of money for is people who are trained in what they call clearing. So I said, clearing? Interesting. Tell me about clearing. And it's exactly what happens when you really meditate. And when I mean really meditate, meaning you get out of your mind. You're deep enough where it's like sleep, but you're not sleeping. You're fully conscious, but you're not thinking. You know, I like to say it's like the stump in the woods, it's just there. You're just there. To be or not to be. You're just being, right? No doing, no thinking. And that creates the clearing, rather than some kind of verbal manipulation. You know, I don't want to knock therapy or anything or talking, but I just think letting go of the thoughts, just getting past all that is the most powerful and profound real experience, not intellectualizing your way out of it. Actually getting to where you recognize who you really are, and you recognize who you thought you are, and you release that false person, that false you. And what happens from there? Back to the laundry. There's a book by Jack Cornfield, I think the title is After the Ecstasy, the Laundry. Just get back to your physical world as long as you're still here. But what I mean by that is you're still living this life. You're still going to have more things to clear. You're still going to have more challenges. You're still going to get smacked in the face emotionally, who knows, physically. You're still going to have all these relationship issues, etc., etc. But there's a lightness of being because you never forget. You know who you really are. You know ultimately everything's going to be okay, no matter what the possible suffering in this physical realm. You know everything's going to be okay. You have trust in the divine. Beyond faith, again, is a knowing. So if you have that experience where things are coming up, something from your past, some traumas relived, then I want you to recognize what's happening. Your body is trying to detoxify itself. And emotional detoxification is as real as any poison detoxification or food detoxification, whatever it is. You know, the body becomes toxic, and toxic thinking also can be trapped inside. Toxic emotions can be trapped inside. Traumas can be trapped inside. Remember, trauma and curiosity. Trauma and curiosity are really the only real drivers to being educated, to knowing something. So trauma will teach you, like very few things can. And of course, if you just have this this overwhelming passion to learn something, this curiosity, it's something that for me in this art has always just, it just never stops because it's so deep. It's so, you know, how can you know nature? It's kind of like that question. It's like, well, don't you know everything about Bagua? I go, who knows everything about nature? The more I learn, the more I understand this whole realm, really. Bagua embodies it. And so that curiosity helps me really learn. And as the more I learn about Bagua, the more I understand myself and the world I'm in. Very different than learning the punch and the kick and the throw and the footwork and, you know, all these physical components that people go to martial arts for on the most superficial level, you know, how to fight. Yes, how to defend yourself can obviously be a life-saving skill, but we got to get past that. And we got to get to the level of confidence that you never have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't get lured into a fight. You don't get, you don't let your emotions drive your decisions. In other words, you learn how to stop the fighting. So with the time left, maybe one or two questions depending. Maybe something about what I just talked about. So raise your hand if you have a question on that or something you want me to elaborate on. Yes, sir, Mr. McEwen.
Thank you, sir. We talk about meditation. Sometimes you see documentaries of people in India, and they're just sitting someplace in the city, they're skin and bones, and they're just meditating, you know, like for hours on end. Do you reach a point where people are just hallucinating? They're not really meditating. That maybe just all don't have the nutrition, and their brain is just they're just hallucinating from lack of nutrition, or but they think they're meditating.
So, didn't I recently talk about fasting last week, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the original Vision Quest included no water, and when I tried, well, I didn't even try. I just didn't drink, and I was just in meditation and just taking my time. Time was going by, and I started to hallucinate. I started to feel hallucination, and it just dawned on me that I need to drink water. So now, why would the original, see, our rules were to drink the water, but nothing else. So we could have water, we just couldn't eat. But the original Native American Vision Quest was also no water. So they would go the days, 4 days, also with no water. And they would hallucinate. Now the question is, does the hallucination actually connect you to something beyond this physical? In other words, opening up more senses. I do believe it does. It's sort of like LSD or DMT, I forget. There's something with the pineal gland that releases this drug, and people have actually taken this drug, and they go through hallucinations, and they see things that aren't there physically. I don't have a lot of experience with mind-altering things, but way back in high school, I did do those magic mushrooms, and let me tell you, the things I saw, pretty crazy stuff. Now, I can't prove they were there, not there. I don't know. So it's really hard to comment, like what's created in our mind that's a complete delusion, or what has opened up something that you're seeing more it's actually there, but you don't see it because we are behind a veil. We're limited with what our senses can pick up. And I have experienced when there's been a long period of meditation, especially when I spent weeks in the woods, more senses open up without question. I mean, I had a time at one of our camps down in Baltimore where somebody, what happened? Yeah, I think somebody had a breakout of poison ivy. And I took a breath, I closed my eyes, I centered myself, and I said, where's the jewelweed? Because jewelweed is an antidote for poison ivy. I closed my eyes, centered myself, turned right, walked a beeline straight ahead, right into a patch of jewelweed. So what sense was that? That was not hallucination. No one told me, nobody knew about jewelweed. I just knew where's the jewelweed, like how I found the ball. Same kind of thing. I asked the question, put it into the ether, and the answer comes, if your mind is clear. So who could say these hallucinations are not also there? We just don't see them normally. I mean, you do realize, you can believe it or not. I mean, the thing is, I've seen it myself. I just don't have a high level of skill there. There are people who see spirits. There are people who see ghosts. Just, it's their normal day. And if it's a child, and the parents have no concept of spirit or beyond the physical, they may drug that kid thinking he's sick. Something's wrong with him or her. So what is real? Those of us who are limited, literally behind a veil, in other words, different dimensions that we don't experience because we're not open to it. So we think that person's crazy. We think that person's hallucinating when actually they could be seeing more than we are. Maybe they're seeing 10 levels and we're seeing five senses. The other side of that, you said they're saying a mantra. They're repeating a phrase to stop the thinking, to dull the mind, to get past the physical mind that's in the way. Repeat, 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 repeat. And that's one of the ways to open more senses. It's like even the words creating a vibration that can activate the pineal gland. And that gland has been proven to be able to take melatonin, which at night helps you sleep, but otherwise it's like alchemy. It can change its property and become like you're saying, a hallucination, like a drug. But what it actually does is it opens you to the spiritual world. So we have within us a way to completely touch God directly. No need for any help. We all have direct connect. We just don't know it. Not trained or something. And I'll tell you something interesting. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't, but fluoride has been proven to calcify the pineal gland. So why in the world would anybody want to put fluoride in the water? Do they want to make people less spiritual? Yeah, where I live, there's fluoride in the water. Where you guys are, there's no fluoride. I don't know South Carolina, but you should check your town and see if there's fluoride in the water, because I put a whole house filter on my house so we don't shower in it or anything. So I have myself covered here, but you need to know where you are if they have that stuff. Many years ago, I wrote a letter. Somebody put in the newspaper about they wanted to promote getting fluoride in the water up there in Bergen County, I think it was. It's in the Record newspaper. And I wrote a letter to him directly and explained to him the science behind where fluoride comes from, why. It's like a byproduct of something. But it's also, it does not help the teeth. It poisons the body. The whole thing is a farce. It's a total lie. Your toothpaste should not have fluoride. These are poisons. Stay away from these poisons. And you don't think it's absorbed right through your mouth? You ever dissolve something under your tongue, goes right into the capillaries and goes into your system? You can put garlic in your mouth and, wait, no, the other way around. You can step on garlic and taste it in your mouth. Did you know that? Pretty instantly too. So anything touches your skin, especially in your mouth, you're absorbing it. So if you're working with chemicals, if you're washing with detergents that are chemicals, bleaches, all these things, they're poisoning you. All the cleaners, disinfectant, all these things we use, they're poisoning us. They're cancer causing. And then we dump them down the drain into the environment and hurt everything else. Anyway, that digression. The pineal gland spiritual connection is known, as is the fluoride to shut that down. You can interpret that as you like. Another question. Yes, sir, Mr. Avalanche.
Yes, sir. Just a comment to piggyback off of what you were saying. The same people that are telling us that the fluoride is good for your teeth are the people that have been putting mercury in them in your fillings for the past 150 years, and we all know that that's no good for you, you know. But there was a man by the name of Andrew Bernays who was hired by the aluminum companies to kind of make it seem like fluoride was good for your teeth because it's a byproduct of producing aluminum.
There it is.
And companies don't want to pay to get rid of their waste products, so why not capitalize off it and sell it instead? Which is what a lot of stuff is in our products nowadays, you know. So, yeah.
Do you remember the byproduct of creating Kodak paper? Because I read that many years ago too.
That's vitamin C, or
E?
vitamin C or D. Is it D? I know it's a vitamin or
You're on the
something.
right track. Yeah, it might be
Yeah,
vitamin E.
but it's very close. They
It's not
tweaked it
the
a little bit.
same, but it's a
No, it's not.
byproduct, and so they sell that. Yep, there you
And you
go.
think
All about
you're
saving money.
taking something healthy, but you're not. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's sometimes you just not sometimes. We have to make an effort to learn things. There's only one reason why you know that is because you picked up a book here and there. I mean, I've got shelves of books. I've read them over decades, and I can't remember everything, but I remember enough.
Hmm.
Little things. And yeah, you just reminded me that detail. But there are plenty of people who have accumulated this knowledge into books, and whereas even the whole fat phobia thing with saturated fat being bad, no, saturated fat's the good one. It's the exact opposite of what people think. But over the years, I read all the steps, all the things. I even saw the letter that was supposed to go out by the Surgeon General. I forget the year. It was around the 50s. And the lobbyists for the vegetable oil industry made him do something completely opposite. So, and since then, everybody was buying margarine and all this fake stuff. But that was like information accumulated over many years, and then someone else wrote a big book like this that included all of it in it. So it's, if you look, people have done their due diligence and they have put it together much more conveniently today. So yeah, I highly encourage people to get informed because we just don't realize what we're doing to ourselves. All right, so we're going to go to meditation now. Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's go to meditation.